couple minutes late here, but thanks for joining me on the final week 20 giveaway. I appreciate it. And license plate frame came today. That's awesome. So I'm glad you already got that. That's great. And thanks for sharing all those photos with me as well. I enjoyed those photos that you sent me. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. So give my printer just a second here. I was stuck in some bad California traffic. So I'm got all the people that are the giveaways right here, hot off the press. So let me just snip these up real quick. And we'll continue with our week 20 giveaway. So thank you for joining me. Hope you guys are having a good week. So the question had to do with old Mr. Pink Pig. And for those of you who put that it was the RSR that won, you guys have been entered to be part of this week's giveaway. So the Pcarwhisperer bag, well, thank you. I appreciate it. So let me throw these in our handy dandy Porsche mug here and see who wins. So the first place prize is going to be this Icons of Cool book, which I posted on that video. It's a pretty cool book that has to do with the Sport Classic. So this is going to be the first place prize. Second place, a good old Pink Pig Pcarwhisperer t-shirt. So thank you guys for joining me on the live stream here. And again, the answer was the RSR from 2018 that won Le Mans that the 917 did not do. So let's see who's going to win this Icons of Cool Sport Classic book. So I'm just shaking up the names here. Oops. And let's see who is going to win. You know what? We're going to redo that because these guys are just stuck together. So that's not fair. Make sure. Okay. Sorry, guys. One more time here. Let's take a look. So first place prize, Scotty KS. So congrats. I'll be contacting you so we can get you this cool Sport Classic book. And now for the Pink Pig t-shirt, which was kind of the hero of this week's giveaway. So let's see. Second place. Nicholas Rubino. Sorry for that's not a very straight cut, but you have won the Pink Pig t-shirt. I know you were asking me about the live stream last night, and here we are. So congrats to you guys on week 20's giveaway. Again, I'll be reaching out to both the winners, and that's the end of these weekly giveaways. So I'll be having some random giveaways, here and there, some random cool Porsche stuff, but we're not going to be doing any more of the weekly giveaways for the time being. So let's see. How are the new car sales currently? Good question. Kind of up and down, to be honest with you. I would say because of, interest rates and things like that the market definitely is softening a little bit. So it's kind of going, up and down. I would say it's kind of hit or miss depending on each particular car. But I've definitely seen it slow down over the next month or last month or two. So, hi, Duve. How are you? 4S or 992 GT3? That's a good question. I'd probably still take GT3, to be honest with you, especially if it was a touring and especially if it was manual. So that's probably what I would do. I'd probably do GT3 touring manual. Now, if it was a track toy, I'd want my GT3 to be PDK and have a wing. And in which case, I'd probably have to change the exhaust, do some kind of like center muffler delete or something from GMG or like Dundon Motorsports or something like that. but I think I'd probably ultimately take the GT3 over the 4RS, even though I'm always been a big Cayman fan just because of how the car handles. So, good question. But yeah, probably GT3 regardless. But I'm a big touring manual guy. So, how easy is it to get an allocation for the new facelift Turbo GT? That's a good question. I wouldn't say it's that difficult, to be honest with you. I think it's an amazing car. For those of you who don't know, I don't publicly say that I work at a Porsche store, but I work at a Porsche Irvine here in Southern California. And to be honest with you, we just received 3 Turbo GTs today, and they're all available. So to do a build, I would say it's probably not too difficult to get a Turbo GT. So hopefully that answers. Is it possible to even get on the list for a GT3 touring? That's another good question. It's Porsche's really slowed down on their GT3 allocations, so the chance to get a GT3 would be pretty difficult now, considering they're pretty much towards the end of their run here for 992.1. So I'd say it's pretty difficult, but I would say it is possible as long as each prospective dealership has a GT3 allocation. For my particular location, I don't believe we have any GT3s here at the moment that are available, because I think getting a 24 GT3 is going to end ultimately being a very rare car, because it seems like they're sticking more with GT3 RSs. So hopefully that answers your question. ATH, I have a 991.2 GT3 in PTS Birch Green. Love Birch Green. Actually, do you mind sending me a photo of that car? I would love to see it. Maybe send it either to me here on, you can send it to me on Instagram or even on YouTube, but I'd like to see that car, because to be honest, is it a touring or is it a winged car? I'm curious, because I've seen one Birch Green GT3 that was PDK. I think it was probably a wing car. I saw it back in like 2018, so I'd be curious. Maybe it's the same car. Winged car. You're in NorCal, so I don't know of very many Birch Green GT3s, so maybe it's the same car, but I would love to see some photos. CCX interior houndstooth, love it. I love old school houndstooth, so that sounds like an awesome spec. I don't think the car I saw though had houndstooth. What do you think about the Porsche Cayman? And it's the only Porsche I could ever raise the money. I would say it's a great choice. I would probably try to stick with 718. It's obviously controversial for any cars that are flat fours, turbocharged, just because of the sound, but I tend to love the 718, so I would say that's an amazing choice. Car feels like an absolute go-kart, so I would maybe try to get a Cayman if you certainly can. That's a great choice. Daniel Santos, when do you think we'll have the 992.2 models coming out? Also, any updates on the 2RS? 992.2, I would assume the models will be released sometime this next summer, and we'll have them probably this time next year. We'll start to be getting the cars. That's what I would imagine. Any updates on the 2RS? I don't have anything new for 2RS. I haven't been told anything, but I'm assuming that we're probably looking at least a couple more years. They tend to do it kind of at the end of the model run like they did last time for 2018 and 1.2. So I would assume that we're probably looking at a 2020, maybe 7 or 8 probably for the next 2RS. Depends on how long they decide to keep the 992.2, but I would assume we're still at least a couple years away from that. Be interesting to see that car, because obviously the last one had about 700 horsepower. Oops, sorry guys. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I live in Italy, and I hear you have to see a lot of good Porsches, and thank you for replying about Cayman. Yeah, you're welcome. What part of Italy? I'm curious. I've always wanted to visit, but never have been. ATH, I saw that you just sent me a message on Instagram, so I'll be looking at that here in a moment. But the new Cayenne Porsche SF. To me, the Cayenne is a major change from the previous generation. I wouldn't say necessarily as overall looks, but just in terms of how the car drives. To me, it's a big change. So if they're allowing you to drive the cars, if you go to Porsche San Francisco, then I would certainly go. I'm assuming it's some kind of launch event. But if you get the chance to drive one, then I would definitely go. But usually, like Porsche events for the most part are pretty slick. You get maybe some cocktails and some free food and things like that. But if you can drive it, to me, the car drives significantly better than the last generation. So hopefully that answers your question. But I would certainly try to go if you can. Are ADMs softening? Yes. I'm seeing them come down. We used to have them on Cayennes and Macans. To be honest, those are now gone. Now we're pretty much just seeing them on anything sports car related, but I am seeing them, drop. So they are definitely coming down. Milan, it's the city. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Bergamo, but I've only lived there for 2 years. I'm originally from Montenegro. Oh, cool. That's awesome. I've heard a lot of good things about Milan, so hopefully one day I can visit. Daniel Santos, do you think the market will level out, go under MSRP or under MSRP for the 992.1 GT3 RS, just like it has for the 991.2 and 99? I think it will. I think it'll probably take some time, but I'm sure at some point, the overall market will lower from where we currently are. I mean, we're pretty significantly above MSRP. I think it may take at least a couple of years. It'll probably dip and then end up ultimately going, back up, kind of like the 991.1 has. A low example like an ultraviolet car or something like that has certainly gone, back up again. But I think we will, but I think it'll also depend on what Porsche ultimately does, for 992.2. I'm sure they're going to eventually launch an RS, and hopefully that car, crossing my fingers, will still be just internal combustion. But if they end up changing that, it'll be interesting to see if it's hybrid. I think that'll ultimately keep the market for 992.1 higher and may dip, but may never go to kind of where we're seeing, 991.1s or 991.2s. So I think it'll just be interesting. But I think it will certainly come down at some point, but not not significantly. It's crazy how much even just the MSRPs have raised, just from when 991.2 came out, and now, all the cars MSRPs are well over 300 grand before any market adjustment. So it's pretty crazy, just how much the prices have increased. But hopefully that answers your question. That's kind of a long answer there, but short answer is yes. I think it'll just take some time. So hopefully that answers your guys' questions. If you have any other more, I'll stay on here for a little bit longer and try to answer as many questions as I can. ATH, if you're still on the live stream, seems like that new Porsche San Francisco dealer is pretty slick. So maybe I would definitely go if you haven't been. Yeah, it's going to be, I would agree with you that the hybrids are going to be kind of difficult in terms of, just overall. Hopefully they don't have, issues. I've seen some issues with Cayenne hybrids in the past, as well as Panamera hybrids. So it'll be interesting to see if they do go electric, if it'll actually be dialed in. And like you said, it'll be a lot more complicated with all kinds of, high voltage wiring and all kinds of stuff. So that'll be interesting. I'm hoping that e-fuels will save the day and we don't end up going electric. So crossing my fingers. STs trickling in. As far as I'm aware, no dealers have even received their allocations yet. So most likely, I would say probably Q2 here in the United States, Q2 of next year, just based on what I'm thinking, maybe the very end of Q1, but we probably won't see them until next year. I'm excited to see the STs. It is slick. The parking is not great. Got it. I guess that makes sense considering we're in downtown San Francisco. So, did all the 991.2 GG 2RSs come with the Visoc package, or was it an extra option? That's a really good question. I don't know if I know the answer to that, but I can certainly find out. Let me look real quick. I got some stuff I can look with. Every single car I've ever seen has the Visoc option. I've just seen a lot of cars with no magnesium wheels. So I can't remember, but I want to say that they all had the Visoc option, and there was and just magnesium wheels was an option. But if you guys know, maybe put them. Hopefully we're still in the live stream. I would just say it was the wheels. I know PDLS was definitely an option too. There I saw some cars that didn't have it, and I was kind of bummed. But I'll confirm for you here. Also, when does the Spyder S start production? Spyder RS, still don't have allocations for those guys either. So I'm assuming the very end of this year. So I don't know the exact start of production for those, but maybe I can look that up for you as well. So sorry guys, give me just a couple seconds here to get the answers. But Spyder RS, I think it's more towards the end of the year. We haven't, again, seen any allocations. I'm looking up this Visoc question. It's always a good opportunity to learn, and I love these opportunities. What makes me so excited about Porsche. There's so much to learn. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. I currently have an obsession with 356s and trying to learn as much as I can about that. But I keep learning more, and I realize there's so much more to learn. So let's see, GT2 RS. I'll also look up this Spyder question for you. Yes, so Visoc was automatically here from what I'm looking at. It was already part of the car. So that's kind of what I thought. And then, yeah, just magnesium wheels. That was the only thing. And no, you cannot order a 992.2 yet, Derby Racer. So probably won't see those go live onto the configurator probably till sometime next summer. Spyder RS, let me see if I can find the answer for you. So give me 2 seconds here. Sorry guys, just want to see if I can find the answer because I'm not aware of it. If you guys have any more questions, throw them down in the comments. I'm not seeing for Spyder RSs for the United States, but let me check one more thing. See if I can find it. No, so I can't, unfortunately, find anything, but if I do find the answer, then I will certainly let you know. I'll send you just a note on Instagram. I've heard rumors that Porsche said the 911 model will never be an EV. Does this mean they will never be fully electric, or could they become a hybrid in the future? So, good question. So for the 992.1, our current car we have out, there's enough room to make the car hybrid. There's enough room to put electric batteries and all the wiring that's needed for that car. So the rumor has previously been that for 992.2, that car will be some kind of hybrid, with maybe the exception of any GT cars. The verdict's still out on that guy to see if that's in fact going to be true. So I think it'll definitely go hybrid, but I think, Porsche's always said that that'll be the last car to ever go fully electric if that's the route, that with all these type of regulations across the world, if that's the way it'll ultimately go, it'll be pretty fascinating, because I feel like electric has set out, to do certain things, but I feel like it's not maybe upholding its end of the deal, I guess you could say, when we're going to electric. The cars are great, but the batteries, I think, are ultimately going to be an issue. The charging infrastructure hasn't quite gotten there. The amount of CO2 that's burned just to make the batteries is a lot more than they, I think, maybe initially thought, or that they're marketing. So I'm going to be fascinated to see if EVs last, for another 20 years or something like that, if it's actually going to be a thing, or if they're going to try to find some kind of alternate in the future. It's as of now, I know it's a big push to do anything EV or hybrid, but just looking at it from a 50,000 foot view, to answer your question, I don't know if it'll ever go fully electric. I would say the answer is potentially, but it could just be a very long time. And hybrid, yes, I would say that they will be hybrid in the future. Potentially the next gen for 25 could be hybrid. If someone has to ordered a vehicle from a Porsche dealer and they were allowed to sell the vehicle or transfer the car to another buyer, it sounds like what you're asking, like, let's say you've put down an allocation, you have the car on order, the car hasn't even come in yet, but you want to then maybe sell it to another person before it comes in. It sounds like maybe what you're asking. Tough question. I would say for most stores, probably no, but certain stores may allow that. I've heard of that in the past, where you have an allocation, you have the car, then I'm not going to take it, but I have a buddy that wants to now buy the car, and that Porsche store will then take, that recommendation for person to now buy the car. I think that's hopefully what you're asking. So I think it's just going to depend on the Porsche store. It sounds like you're going through Porsche San Francisco, so maybe they'll do that if you currently have any car on order. I think if it's a Macan or Cayenne, I don't think it'll be as big of an issue. If it's a GT car, it'll be tough. Got it. You've been seeing people selling allocations on Facebook groups. Yeah, I think that's something to be kind of weary of, that people are, building cars because maybe they have a big relationship with a dealership, and then they're trying to, profit on being able to resell their slot, I guess you could say. I would say Porsche Cars North America would most likely be against it, but I think it's all going to depend on your particular store. But I would, be careful with that, I guess. I would, if the store doesn't maybe know, then that's one thing. But I think if they would know, they probably ultimately say no to that. Do you believe Porsche's e-fuels will work? Good question. I hope so. I hope that ultimately the overall price isn't going to be astronomical, like race fuels we have today, where it's, $10 or $15 a gallon. But based on what I've read from all like the Porsche newsroom articles and everything I've done my research on, it looks like it will work, but I think that's the verdict's still out, but I think it probably will. Which makes me excited, because ultimately, if we can retrofit old cars to run this e-fuel and help with CO2 emissions for all of our current cars, that'll certainly help current cars stay on the road longer without maybe taxing them at a crazy high rate. So I think they will. I think they just need to get it even more dialed in. But yeah, it's just, I think being able to produce the e-fuels at a very large scale for the entire world, considering they're only producing them in Chile at the moment. I think they would have to find a place to be able to produce it more for a world scale. I think it's too small at this point in time. I know they're doing it with cup cars and things like that, but it'd be interesting. So hopefully that answers your guys' questions. Flat six rules. I like how you call it P School, and I appreciate it. I'm flattered. I know you said that in the comment too. Do you see the Taycan sales peaking along with other EV sales, except for Tesla not throwing shade on the Taycan resale values as they're no longer holding strong? Yeah, I'd say the Taycan values have kind of peaked. I feel like, personally, they're not as strong as what Porsche wants them to be, and I think that's kind of making them overall weary of the upcoming Macan EV. And yeah, I think it's kind of it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because ultimately, all these regulations, they're going electric, 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 but yet I don't think people are adopting them at necessarily the rate that Porsche wants them to, or even all these governments across the United States, or excuse me, across the world. I don't think that people are adopting them as quick. So just like you said, the values of those cars are kind of going down, and overall intake rate of the cars as well is also going down. They're not. I'm not seeing as many orders on those cars as we initially did. For a while there was a year wait. Now, you can relatively get one fairly quickly. That could also be part in that there's the rumored, Taycan refresh that's going to be coming here for 25. There's a lot of things happening for 25 with Porsche, 718 or whatever they're going to call it if that's the case, 911, Taycan, Macan EV. So there's a lot of stuff, new Panamera as well. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming down the pipe. But hopefully that answers your question. So I would say EV sales have certainly peaked. I know a lot of people are still concerned about range. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how EV cars hold values long term. It doesn't seem like so far they're doing, great. Do you think the 992.2 will follow the same design paths as the face-listed Cayenne? Good question. I think so. I think we're probably going to have a fully digital curved display. I hope they don't move the shifter up to where it is. It's already kind of got a new Cayenne shifter, in the center with the shaver, as they called it. But I think so. I think we'll probably get, some design influence from the new Cayenne in terms of the cluster for sure. And it kind of also comes from the Taycan. I'm sure that for sure the new Panamera will have it. In the past, it was kind of interesting. The Panamera was kind of the model that would trickle down to all the other cars, and you would kind of see it first on the Panamera, and then it would bounce to other models. Now it seems like the Taycan's kind of taking the lead on that. So hopefully to answer your question, I think so. I think the facelifted path will certainly go, Cayenne, HD matrix headlights, like I said, curved display. I think that's probably the route it'll probably end up going, especially if it's ultimately hybrid. I'm glad we're getting so much interaction here, so thank you guys. I appreciate it. I think this is probably one of the longest ones we've done. Sorry, Daniel. It looks like you were maybe just typing something else. I just see a do. I don't know if that was maybe part of that previous message that you had sent. Do you see prices rising or lowering for the new 992.2? I would say I see them rising. It's pretty drastic with what Porsche's done over the last couple of years. I think they want to try to benefit off of, everything, all the demand of everything, just the price increasing, gas, grocery store goods, things like that. So I would say they'll probably increase the price yet again. The last 2 or 3 years, we've seen drastic price increases. So I would assume they'll probably rise it maybe a small amount. It could be just a couple $1,000, but I would see it, rising. I was having this discussion today as well. It's going to be interesting to see where we see Macan EV prices, start off too. If they're going to be, drastically higher, if we're going to be around the Taycan, starting price that we initially had at 79,000, if that's where the Macan would be, wouldn't be surprised. So it could price some people out of the market, and a lot of people for their first Porsche, where they maybe could get a new one initially, they may end up having to go pre-owned here in the future just because, the prices are rising so quickly. Cayenne full EV. I haven't heard much, to be honest with you. I think we're at least a couple more years away, but I think it'll ultimately be the car we currently have, just going, full electric. But I think people are still weary about range, so hopefully the Taycan, the new one, will set a good, distance ultimately for the car, and then we can get 300 or 400 mile range on a Cayenne. You'd think you could, but I haven't heard anything big time on that. Cayenne Hybrid's been delayed for the new Cayennes. It's all going to be next year, so that's pretty much maybe the only thing I really know about any electric Cayenne. But again, Cayenne EV, not sure. I think we're probably a couple years away. I would say probably 26 or 27 until there's a full electric Cayenne. What is the difference between a 2020 and 2023 model years for the Turbo S, as I've been seeing 2020 selling sub 200K and 2023 starting out at about a 250 plus on the secondhand market? Are we talking, sounds like we're talking 911. Virtually, there's really no difference. The biggest difference is same body, same interior. Biggest difference is going to be the PCM. So we end up going in 2022 to PCM 6.0. Previously, it was the 5.0. So you had all the icons there on the left-hand side. But other than that, you're not going to have, some functionality like the 22s or 23s are going to have. But virtually, it's just from PCM 5 to PCM 6. Other than that, car functions, for the most part the same. Some key features that maybe you'd be missing out on would be smart lift, where you can press the front axle lift. It'll automatically save the location or prompt you if you want to save the location. Android Auto, if you have a Android phone. The responsiveness is just a little bit quicker now for PCM 6.0 since we've been doing all these updates to it. But, virtually that's pretty much it. Derby Racer, have a good night. Thanks for joining me. But yeah, no, that's interesting that you've picked up on that. But that's virtually it. Virtually it is just the PCM. So I would say if you can get one and you're not super stuck on the PCM 6.0, I would try to get maybe an earlier car like a 21 or something. Because you can probably, like you said, you can get it for, a better price. Car's going to literally drive the same, and you're just going to be missing out on a couple small features for PCM 6.0. Any chance Porsche will join the Tesla supercharger network much like everyone else? Perhaps they will help with range and charging anxiety. Good question. I don't think so, and the only reason I don't think so is because the diesel scandal that happened with Porsche and Audi and Volkswagen, they were forced to make a drastic measure and invest a lot of money into the charging infrastructure, which is Electrify America, to try to get in the good graces of governments. I would say more here in the United States, because in Europe there's another company called INE that does the charging. So I wouldn't think so, because the Volkswagen Group, which is kind of all under Porsche's all under that umbrella, they've invested so much money to try to make this charging infrastructure because of what happened with the diesel scandal. So I would say I don't think so. I know Tesla wants to open their chargers, for everybody to be able to use them. That would certainly help, but I don't think they would necessarily, join forces with Tesla in that regard. It would just be Taycan owners would have to then, pay Tesla to charge their cars. So if it's Taycan or, Macan coming next. So hopefully that answers your question, but that'll certainly help range anxiety, because Tesla's definitely has their supercharger network pretty dialed in. I've heard a lot of issues maybe with Electrify America, but overall Tesla's been pretty great. Well, the 992.1 Turbo S follow the same market prices like the 991.1 Turbo S, as you can pick one up now for about 130 grand. I would say it'll follow kind of the same curve, but I think ultimately the prices will stay probably higher than the 991.1 Turbo S, just because you could pick up 991.1 Turbo S's for a really good price. I mean, they were sub 200 literally back in the day when the car came out in 2014. So I would say it'll follow the same trend, but I don't know if it'll ever dip to a 130K, considering all the new cars too are increasing at such a price. It's kind of keeping these older cars, up there in terms of pricing. So I don't think, if it hits 130 grand, I think it'll take a while. I mean, ultimately at some point Porsches go down, 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 down. At some point they hit rock bottom, and then they start to kind of rip back up. But I just don't know if rock bottom will ultimately be 130 grand. I would say, maybe 150, 160, maybe. And like I said, if we talked about a little bit earlier, is if if 911 goes electric, I think ultimately that'll keep the values of these, 992.1s higher, just because I think people aren't going to maybe necessarily want to adopt a full electric 911, because that's kind of against the purist mindset. Is to have an electric 911 just sounds kind of absurd for some people. I know, like the Mission X is coming out and going full electric, but hopefully that answers your question. That's kind of a long answer, but I think ultimately probably won't go that low. And not that 130 is low, that's still really high, but when we're talking in those figures, I'd say 130 is maybe out of the ballpark, even in the shorter term for Turbo S. It'll certainly dip down once the new Turbo S comes out, but I don't know if it'll go to 130. You guys have any more questions? I love all the questions, and I hope you guys are getting some kind of benefit from them, because I love to, try to answer them as best as I can and help all you guys. So can't believe we've already been on this live stream for almost 40 minutes. So thank you guys for joining me. I know it's getting late on the East Coast. ST become $1 million car? I believe it will. I've always said the 911R will be definitely $1 million car. We're not there yet. I know when they first came out, in 2016, people were flipping them and trying to get them for 800 grand. That's kind of why Porsche got mad and ultimately came out with the GT3 Touring. That was very similar car, still not quite as special, but I think so. I think it'll take a while for the S2 to get it to be a $1 million car, but seeing that it's naturally aspirated and everything they've done with it, I think it will. It could take a while. I would say right now the market, it's going to be probably well over $500,000 already, but I think to hit $1 million, in the next 10 years, for sure. Are ADMs higher for the Sport Classic or the ST? I don't know exactly what the ADMs are quite yet for the ST, but I would presume that they're going to be pretty close. Some Sport Classics have gone, I've seen it even on the web for, 2 to 250 over. I would assume STs will be in that ballpark, probably somewhere. Cars a little bit, more limited than the Sport Classic, but ultimately I would say ADM would. Personally, I think ST would ultimately be higher. I think the take rate on the Sport Classic maybe wasn't quite as high as maybe everyone thought. Kind of same thing with the Dakar. I think the overall take rate on the 911 Dakar maybe wasn't quite as high. I mean, it's a pretty slick car with the off-roading and all kinds of cool stuff, but I think kind of going into that, I think the take rate on those cars wasn't quite the buzz like it has been so far for the ST. I have a question for you guys. Are any of you guys going to Rennsport? Mr. Fish, Get you an allocation. Yes, we need to get you an allocation for an ST. So for those of you who are here on the live stream, I actually work with Jeff, so he's joining us. So thank you, Jeff. Do not have any tickets, but you were at Quail last month. I've heard pretty slick things about Quail, and I didn't realize how much those tickets went for. Those are like, it's crazy. But that looked like a pretty special event. I know Porsche had a booth there. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. So I'm glad that you got to go to Quail. I've never been to Car Week, and I've always heard amazing things about it. Last question from Daniel Santos. ATH, I don't have any tickets. Okay, yeah, sorry, you were at Quail. Yep. Last question is, it's getting late here in Portugal, LOL. How much do you think a well-restored 60s 911 goes for? I've been seeing some models for about 60 to 80K. Not sure if all this is true. I guess it would depend on what 911 you're looking at. Are we looking at like a 911T, or is it a 911S? I think that's it'll kind of depend on mileage. Has it been restored? I think it could for sure go. I mean, if it's 60 or 80 grand, I feel like that's a screaming deal. I feel like those cars, have been going for quite a bit more than that, especially if they're, well kept and they're restored and they have low miles. And so I'd be curious to see kind of more maybe what you're looking at. Maybe you can send me a message on Instagram, or send me a note on my email, and I would be more than happy to try to go more in depth with that. But 60 to 80 grand seems like a screaming deal if you ask me for any 911. That's a 60s car. Looks like you on the note you said well restored, but I would say that's a good deal. Very good deal. Flat 6 rolls, looks like you had a comment maybe, but it's no longer there. So if you guys have any more questions, go and throw them down in the comments below. And we'll try to get as many on here as I can. Let's see. I'm glad you're wearing my shirt. I appreciate the support. That's awesome. I love it. Is it possible to get an original MSRP sticker reprinted? I've done it before. Are you the original owner, and did you get it from? Yeah, I guess that's my question. Did you get it from the? Did you buy the car new? I guess that's my question. And if the answer is yes, then you can. Got it. You just bought the car a month ago. The only thing that I'm aware of that you can do is just get a certificate of authenticity, but not an actual reprint. As far as I've been told, you can only get a reprint of an MSRP sticker if you're the original selling dealer and you're pretty much the original owner of the car. Then you can request it, and then Porsche will send the dealer the original window sticker. Daniel, I appreciate it. That's awesome. I'm glad that you're enjoying these live streams. I need to try to do some more for you guys. I almost want to do kind of like Flat 6 Rules talks about, maybe have a topic on each live stream, and we just talk about, maybe do a quick little slideshow and do some P school as he's talking about, and then, have a discussion. So I've been thinking about that. I just got to carve out some time. Actually, I'd like to know your guys' thoughts. Maybe if I have live streams, I'm thinking once a month here, and to have a specific topic I'll kind of present for a short period of time, and then we'll have a discussion. I'd like to maybe get your guys' thoughts, since we have about 9 to 10 people here on this live stream. I'd love to see what you guys think, to see if you maybe think that would be beneficial, that maybe I can take some suggestions for topics. It's kind of in the early stages, but I would think that would hopefully be helpful in the long term, that people can maybe come back to these live streams even later and search certain things that maybe they were looking for or find answers to, almost kind of like a forum, but kind of through video. I think that would maybe be pretty cool. Not sure it's a stretch, but maybe a podcast on some of the questions posted by your viewers. That's good. I've been told I should do a podcast, and I've thought about it. So maybe that's actually a good recommendation. I've been told I have a buddy that wants to actually start a podcast with me and do kind of like what you're talking about, just kind of talk Porsche and ask a bunch of questions, and I kind of do what we're doing now. So I think that's maybe a good idea, instead of doing any kind of presentations, but just do it maybe more in a podcast, and then I can maybe offer it, on all places where podcasts are offered. I like that, Jeff. My coworkers are my podcast guests. That's cool. No, that'd be awesome. So I think I should probably work more towards that. I'm going to make a note of that, just because I like that idea. Oh, Mark. He's joining us on the live stream too. That's cool. Well, thanks for joining, guys. But no, that's good. Podcast. Now, do you think I should do it on this channel, or should I do it as a separate, completely separate YouTube channel? What do you guys think? Should we do it as a one-stop shop, a Pcarwhisperer podcast, or should I just make it a completely different channel? Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the live stream. Maybe some sales managers or mechanics to get in depth behind the scenes. That'd be cool. Yeah, some. That's actually good. Well, thanks for your suggestions. I like it. All right, I think we got that stuff down. Those are great ideas. So if there's not anything else, I think we're probably going to try to wrap this live stream up. I don't want to take all your guys' night. I prefer using Spotify for my podcasts, but definitely don't mind the YouTube as well. Cool. Yeah, if I were to do it, it would be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. I'd probably put it everywhere. So I'd have a one video format, and then everywhere else would just be all virtual. MT Bone Service has been so crowded and horrible in Miami. Is it bad everywhere? I know a lot of Porsche dealers have gotten pretty influxed with a lot of service work. So I think I would say, yeah, it can take a little bit of time to get an appointment. 2 months seems pretty excessive to me, to be honest with you. I would say a couple weeks is pretty standard, maybe at most Porsche stores, depending on the size and how many people are in their servicing area. But 2 months seems pretty long. What kind of car is taking 2 months? I know certain stores only set appointments based on the type of car, because maybe they only have a certain amount of technicians. For example, a lot of places will only do Taycans because they only have a certain amount of Taycan technicians. Service was base Macan. Yeah, that seems pretty long. Yeah, base Macans have really kind of changed the Porsche brand, to be honest with you. Before base Macans, we didn't have as large of an influx. It's really helped Porsche grow their footprint in the automotive industry, but it's made things like this happen, for Cayenne owners or 911 owners. It's really, there's such inundated with so many, base Macans, partially because of the price point, but also because they sell the most of those. It's kind of, hurting other people trying to get slots to, get their car serviced. But 2 months still seems excessive to me. And that's a good question that Daniel poses. Do you go to Champion? Because that's the largest dealership in the country. Joey Powers. Good question, but it's not a Porsche question, so we're not going to answer that guy. That's it's doesn't really have to do with what we're talking about. So, but yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. I would say 2 or 3 weeks is pretty standard, but 2 months is crazy. You're welcome. And actually, I'm curious, what Porsche store do you go to that takes that long? I'm just curious. You're welcome, ATH. I appreciate you joining. Hopefully, I answered all your questions. The collection at Coral Gables. Okay. I've heard some, pretty good things about them as well. I'm surprised that, they're 2 months out. That's sounds like they need to increase their service center. They need to get a larger service center is what it sounds like if it's taken that long. Sounds like we're starting to get some bots or something on this live stream. Getting some interesting comments that are not Porsche related, so we're gonna not address those. This is only for Porsche. But if that's pretty much most of the questions here, then I think we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna close up this live stream. Alcantara steering wheel. Looks like we got a couple more questions coming through. How do you refresh an Alcantara steering wheel? I know there's a special kind of brush that you can get that'll kind of bring it back to life, as well as like a solution. I don't remember the name of it, to be honest with you, but there's like a Alcantara brush that you can kind of brush because it because of the oils, it tends to get all, as you know, matted down. I think it might have been Chemical Guys. I'm sorry, I'm trying to look here, but I want to say maybe it was Chemical Guys had something that I've seen that worked, decently well. It doesn't make it, perfectly back to normal. But I've seen, what is this? I'm a big proponent of Griot's Garage as well, so I think they probably have something. But yeah, typically there's like a special kind of brush that you can use that'll bring it back to life, as well as a solution. That's kind of what I'm seeing here. But I just want to see if I can get the name of that one I've seen in the past for you. Not... Yeah, I mean, I would go with anything, kind of well-known. Chemical Guys or, Griot's Garage. I'm sure they have some kind of something or other. Looks like even maybe Jay Leno, he's got his own kind of stuff. So maybe I'm sure that would probably be good. He's a absolute car nut. But yeah. One other thing, I've noticed that 997.1 3RS prices are to the moon. Porsche Monterey has a Kermit for 360. Wow. Yeah, that's I'm curious, how many miles are on that car? Let me look at that guy. I feel like that's maybe a little bit high, but haven't looked at the market on these. 11K. Yeah, that's pretty low miles, but I would still say that seems, for me personally, I think there's probably other cars I would buy in that price point. To me personally, I think that's probably a, potentially a high twos to low threes car, but like I said, I'm not, super well versed on those, but in terms of just the pricing, but 360 seems pretty high for that car. I mean, for 360, for me personally, I'd probably try to find, you could maybe find a 911R at 360. I'm trying to look it up here. Oh, yeah. Looks like it's pretty clean, though. Yeah, I'm with you in terms of the Alcantara looking pretty tired after some time. Yeah, this Kermit looks like a nice car. I just have to do, again, more kind of research on what the market currently is for this car. But yeah, that seems that seems pretty high. But again, everything else has been inflated. Looks like a nice car, though. Looks like it has a little bit of wear on the inside. Speaking of the steering wheel, that looks pretty good. I like the carbon fiber on the inside. Looks like a nice car. Just see a little bit, it looks like a little bit of damage on some of the leather on the seats. But yeah, good question. Seems like maybe the market on those guys has gone crazy. I would say too that because of the 991.2 GT3 RS, that would probably also certainly inflate anything 3RS. Going back to even 996 GT3 RS, which we never even got here in the United States. Those cars have really gone through the roof too, especially if you have a blue spec, the blue wheels, those have really gone up as well. But I would say just because Porsche's increasing their pricing, and that's helping older RS cars probably go through the roof, just like you just saw there with that car at Monterey. So I'm going to give it about 2 more minutes here. We've been on the live stream almost an hour. You can't believe it. And then we'll go ahead and wrap it. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. If there's any last minute questions, I'll try to answer them. Just got an update on Carrera GT. For those of you who like market updates and like to follow certain cars, I would say an awesome resource is classic.com. You can go on there and you can track certain cars. It's kind of similar to what Bring a Trailer has on there. When you go to the certain cars and you can track their market. Here, I'll just see if I can flip this camera around. But this is a pretty sweet graph. It's classic.com. So maybe it'd be interesting to search that GT3 RS that we were just talking about and see kind of what they're saying the markets are. Let's actually do that. 997.1. It's pretty cool because then it's free to join, and then you can just track down the market. Looks like collecting cars. They had one, it didn't sell. Maybe they were asking a lot for it. These are all GT3s, though. We want GT3 RS. So for those of you, again, who aren't aware of this website, it's something I would certainly check out if you can. Again, it's free. They got awesome graphs on here. I like to go in here and watch the markets. But now since you've posed that GT3 RS question, let's see what we can find. Here we go. So let's see. This is a 5-year span. That seems like a lot. So let's try to, bring it in within the last year. Unfortunately, there's not that many cars, not many of these cars that are sold. So there's not that much market data on these guys. But let's go to September 2022. See how many cars have been sold. So it looks like there's the car at Porsche Monterey. There's currently one. This is what's crazy. There's currently a car that's being sold at Collecting Cars for 110,000 euros. And what's cool is you can just open the link and you can check the cars out. So, I mean, that's got a lot of 4 times the miles, but that seems still, that's a huge difference. Even at 110,000 euros, I mean, the car's going to be what, 140 grand or something? Here's another one. This has got really low miles, currently for sale. Motor Car Classics. It's been on sale for a couple months now. It's only 2,000 miles at 334. That's why I still feel like this seems, kind of high. So that's pretty fascinating to be honest. Here's another one for sale. 18,000 miles, non-Kermit. Looks like the Kermits are maybe having a lot more cars, or it's going for a lot more. But this car's got 18,000 miles. They're asking $215 for it. So it's been on the market for 3 months. But no, of course, PCCBs. It's a little bit different spec, but yeah. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys this website just for tracking these kind of cars. But here's another one. Here's another comparable car. March 6th, so that was quite a few months ago. 237 on BAT. Another one. West Coast Exotics. They're not showing all the comps, but yeah, that's pretty interesting. So for those of you who haven't used the website, again, something I'd highly recommend. You can just track it. You can track any car that you want. You make an account. All you got to do is hit follow market, and you can do that. So hopefully that's a little helpful tidbit for you guys if you want to track certain cars. But again, 360 is up there compared to other cars that are currently on the market. Again, it's the only Kermit with that many low miles, but holy smokes. There was actually a Kermit with 3,600 miles, RM Sotheby's last year for 390. So Kermits tend to command a lot more. Here was another one, February, from Collecting Cars, 16,000 miles. This is in the UK, and 175 euros, so close to 200 grand. So hopefully that is helpful. But I'm going to wrap up this live stream. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I appreciate all the support and you guys joining me here on this live stream. So greatly appreciated. Hope you guys have a great evening, and we'll see you guys in maybe a next live stream or next video. So thanks again, Empty Bone. Appreciate it. Have a great night.